With that being said, thank you all for coming tonight. Welcome to this town hall to talk about the road to local control and public safety and where we are, where we've been, where we are now, and where we're going to go. So first of all, I do want to acknowledge that we have a lot of people in this room, from our county commission chairman to our city staff and council, but I will just say I'm going to reserve all protocols and observations for this evening instead of taking time going through introducing everyone. If you do not know who they are, people will stick around a little bit afterwards. You have an opportunity to meet them. But your time, just like everyone's, is valuable, so I'm not going to spend the time today going through that with everybody. We're going to jump right into this. So, why are we here tonight? There's going to be a few things we want to answer as far as questions, so you can have the opportunity to ask questions directly. I want to be able to give you the facts of kind of where we've gone, where we are now, and where we're going, specifically around some of these things and what happened. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to spend so much time talking about where we've been and how we've got here. I do want to spend time talking about where we're going forward, because that is very important. But I know that because so many of you have questions about how we got here today and what happened, I want to make sure we spend some time with that. But how is this decided? You know, what's still being looked at? What are some of the answers? And I'm going to start off by telling you this. We don't have all the answers. We've asked a lot of the questions. We've worked in good faith with the county since day one. And our effort has been first and foremost around providing for the people of this city, all 80,000 of us. We've worked in conjunction with the county to be able to do that through a transition. We will work with the county going forward in the future to make sure that not just Mableton residents, but all residents are taken care of. Now, there we go, okay. So, first things first. First things first is that someone asked me earlier about public safety and law enforcement has not changed. The basic things that you see from a law enforcement standpoint, from before incorporation to what's happened over the last 2 weeks to today and tomorrow, substantively have not changed. You call 911 for emergency or not emergency, someone is still going to call, or someone's still going to come. The security standards and protocols that's been in place are still in place. The working relationship that we have with the Cobb County Police and Cobb County Sheriff are still the same as what they've always been. And I'll commend not only our city, but also Cobb County and the Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Craig Owens, and the Police Department for making sure that that stayed first and foremost. So, where do we stand? I'm going to short circuit this a little bit because I think this information you guys already know. We have reached an agreement with Cobb County for law enforcement services that has been signed by both parties, and it is now in effect. So, first and foremost. That stands to the diligence, I think, on both sides of this to make sure we do the best to get it right. And for any of you who have been involved in negotiation before, you know this. Negotiations are hard. And it's rare that either side comes out with every single thing that they want. And people say, how is that possible? We're all Cobb County residents, right? We all live and share in the same space. But there are two different governments that are in place. There's a county government, there's a city government. There is a commission that's in place, and there is a local city council that is in place. And we all want to work as hard as we can to make sure that we are standing up for what we think is right, and to make sure we work for what's to the best interest of our respective entities. And that's what I believe we've done. So through this, you will see that police services will be provided through May 31st of 2027 at a cost of $13 million. This allows for standard patrols. Again, the same thing that's happened before will continue in the way that it has. And this will give Mableton time enough to plan what our long-term strategy is as far as public safety. So what does that mean? As a new city, we have to continue to work, as I said before, to work with Cobb County on certain services. Now, I will say this. Everyone focuses on this law enforcement, and it's very important. But we went into this with 15 different services. And out of those, 14 we were able to agree on through negotiations without much of any hiccups. We've worked through them. There were a lot of back and forth. But 14 out of the 15 we got done. So for people that wonder what was going on and what have we been doing over the last couple of years, we've been doing a lot of work to get these services done and in place. And so it came down to this last service that was really the most challenging one to work through. Service delivery in itself, when a city is created, in all cities, they're generally done in a 10-year span where you have a Service Delivery Act, which is a law that says that the cities and counties have to come together to decide what services each one of them are going to provide. The county provides services, and then the cities obviously provide services. What happened when we first became a city was the last service delivery was in 2024. We were just established as a city. I went to some of the meetings, so did our city attorney, but we weren't really at the table. We were not providing any services at that point in time. Well, what's happened is in the time since then, we have started providing some of our own services. So some of those services are now provided by us, but we still have some of these services that you see here are provided by the county. But as we move forward, we have to look at what is going to be held for all of us. So what's happened? In 2025, we came out of that transition. Again, 2024 was a service delivery where all the cities and the county came to an agreement through 2034. It was a long-term agreement that the cities established with the county. Again, we didn't have a lot to do with that, so we came in 2025 to establish our own agreement with the county. Out of those, we had most of those agreements put in place, and we came out of that agreement with a one-year agreement for law enforcement services and for transportation services, or DOT. That was an agreement that we came to basically give ourselves a chance to figure out what in the world was actually going on. How are we going to figure out what those costs are? The county and the city was a long way apart. We started this journey off by saying, we don't know anything. And the reason many of us said we didn't know anything is because before we were a city, as many of you know, we pay the same 8.46 mills into the county. So basically we pay the same property tax in the city of Mableton that unincorporated did. After we incorporated, we still paid the same amount of property tax. However, the county made it clear to us that the tax dollars that we pay no longer counted toward law enforcement services, that we would have to pay a separate and distinct amount, although we was getting the same exact services. Now, to a lot of people that didn't make sense. We've gone back and forth. We went back and forth quite some time in 2025. But we landed an agreement. An agreement was a one-year agreement for $9.5 million. And we obligated ourselves to pay that, and we will continue to pay that. We went through some issues with that, but we decided to go forth to make sure that that was the right thing so all citizens would not have any problems. Going past that, going into 2026, again, we worked on these issues all year long. And what we came to find out was that agreement we kept in service in place going into 2026. In 2026, again, we listed all those other services that we were able to do. Negotiations went continuing along through that whole time until we got to law enforcement services. Now, the discussions per the police agreement, as you can see here, what these discussions were, let me advance this one forward because I want to get to this. Why was the agreement delayed? So there was discussions about what happened in this mediation. And in the mediation, we really focused on two things, which was the cost of the service and the duration of the service. As you know, as I mentioned before, 2034 was a target date because all the other cities have agreements out through 2034. So we walked into that wanting agreements through 2034, which we got for all the other agreements except for the public safety or the law enforcement agreement. The final execution was delayed. Why was it delayed? We did sign an agreement, a mediated agreement, and I will show that to you, that talked about the duration of the service, and we talked about the cost of the service. What was not discussed about was the specific terms of the agreement. I know many people say, how can we go through that and not discuss the immediate terms of what was in the actual IGA? But again, through this whole time, there was very specifics about how much it was going to cost the residents and how long that agreement was going to be put in place. So once the mediated agreement was done, we went back and looked at the actual intergovernmental agreement itself. Once we looked at the intergovernmental agreement, there were some issues that we found that we were not in alignment with, and that was municipal court revenues. This IGA is written, and there's a specific line in there that says any court revenue would go to Cobb County's general fund. And I'm sorry, but as a distinct city, that has our own municipal court, we felt that any municipal court revenue should stay within the city of Mableton. And that is something that we were unwavering on. Citation processing. Citation processing was something that we asked because of a simple premise of local governance and jurisdiction. There's a state law that's provided through Section 40 that covers many of the simple traffic moving violations that simply says if you violate one of those moving violations, you will go to court in that local municipality. If you get stopped today in Powder Springs, if you're speeding, if you get stopped in Smyrna for a violation, right turn when you should not have, if you get stopped in Austell because you have a broken tail light, guess where you will go to court? You go to court in that local municipality. Well, in this intergovernmental agreement, we do not have that right. And even though we are paying the Cobb County Police for the actual law enforcement services, the services to provide law enforcement, what we found was in the IGA, there was a section that was titled court services that would force all of those to go to our local, to go to county courts instead of ours. Now, for us, a lot of people focused on the revenue, but for us, the really issue around this is local governance. It's the fact that we are a city just like any other city. It's been proven through local court, through Superior Court, with the Supreme Court of Georgia, and we want to make sure we stand on that. Forfeitures, there was in the IGA, it specifically said that any forfeitures, if y'all are familiar with it, there's fines, fees, and forfeitures that's possible whenever you go through a disposition in court. So there's the fee that you get for the violation, the fine that you get for the violation, there's a potential fee that you pay for going through the court, and there's a forfeiture which you forfeit to that entity. Many of you may see drug busts or whatever, right? There'll be a car or something else to be forfeited. In this agreement, all forfeitures will go to Cobb County, and that was something that we were not happy about. Local ordinance authorities, again, if it's a local ordinance, we feel strongly that it should stay with the city. Grant opportunities. Grant opportunities is something that we continue to explore. The city of Mableton has already won numerous grants already. This IGA does not allow us to have autonomy when it comes to the grants. If there's any grant related, anything public safety related, it requires us to have to go to the county and get permission from the county for us to request a grant, whether it's from the state, whether it's from an entity, or whether it's from the federal government. It would require us to have to go to Cobb County to get permission to write a grant for our own citizens here. And lastly, public safety governance within the city of Mableton. This IGA, the way that it's written, basically says that if the county creates an ordinance that isn't aligned with ours, that we have to change our ordinance to align with the county's ordinance. Now, I don't know about you, but I have a problem with that, again, from a local governance perspective, with us being a standalone city, that we have to change our local ordinances because Cobb County changes their ordinance. There's something about this that says we are a city, and regardless of who we get our services from, we still are a self-sustaining city that we can provide, we can have law enforcement services or DOT services or any service from someone else, but we still do not give up the right of our local governance, our local control, and our local ownership around this. So these were the issues that we raised, mainly around protecting our residents, protecting city operations, and making sure that Mableton has the ability to govern itself. So what does that mean? As we went forward through this process, that was our stance, that we were not asking for any special permission. We were not asking for anything that any other city did not have. We were not asking for anything that state law did not provide and say that we could have. But we were also asking for local control. So when we go through this public safety decision was based on specific things, enforcement priorities. Now within our city, we want to have the ability to have a say in how policing is done in our city. We've all had issues, just like every other city, with traffic issues. We have issues with homelessness. We have issues, not even issues, we have times where we want to block off roads, and we want to have parades, and we want to have 5Ks and those kind of things in our city. With this IGA, we're not allowed to do that unless we seek permission from the county to do so. I'm sorry, I think we have an issue with local governance there. So when we look at community policing goals, when we look at local ordinances, you guys saw the news story maybe from last weekend where there was a party that was going on, and initially it was reported that the police did not show up. I will say law enforcement did show up. They absolutely did. However, they did not write an ordinance. They did not write a citation because the city of Mableton has its own noise ordinance. And therefore, those officers stated that they did not have the jurisdiction to be able to write a citation for a local noise ordinance. So where do we stand now with how this? I'm going to skip forward a couple of these. So our original plan, the partnership that we expected, again, was going into this agreement or going into mediation with an agreement that we would get an agreement stretched out through 2034, which we have for all the other agreements that we have in place. It was important to us. We've said many times, I've personally said many times that I think Cobb County Police Department is one of the finest in the state, if not the country. I think they've been very responsive to our needs, and we have been partnered ever since the city was stood up to provide police services for the city. But when we look at what was happening as we go through this process to avoid duplication of services, to make sure we're saving taxpayers' dollars, and to create a long-term agreement for the residents, that is what we went into mediation with. That was a plan, that was a preference, that was our position. What we were presented, though, was something quite different. What we were presented with was an agreement that did not afford us a long-term agreement. It was an agreement that was far shorter than that, an ultimate agreement that ended up with a one-year agreement for us to move forward and no longer use Cobb County Police Services. Now, even though we wanted that long-term agreement, we did work through what this specific agreement was. Now, this mediation, 10 hours, where we sit in one room and the county representative sit in another room, there's a mediator that goes back and forth. So this isn't exactly real time, but there's a negotiation process that goes forward. Now, due to the agreement that we have, I cannot disclose everything that happened back and forth, but I will clearly say for you that a long-term agreement through 2034 was not on the cards for the city of Mableton working with Cobb County Police. So what do we agree to coming out of that mediation? We agreed to a couple of things here, and you can see this very clearly. It's a one-year agreement that ends May 31st, 2027 for $13 million. You see the terms there was outlined. You see the Six Flags Special Service District. That's a special service district that's been in place for quite some time. Before the city was created, we reestablished that special service district that basically allows us to have $3.5 million within that area to help revitalize the Six Flags area. So we confirmed that that was in place throughout that agreement. And then the last part of that was a joint statement. We agreed that there should be a joint statement regarding the police services moving forward, and that neither entity shall issue a statement without consulting the other. Now, we did that as well, at least initially. There was a peer-reviewed statements that we put out about how we're going to go forward, and I think that's what people hung on to when this idea that we had all agreed to everything, and we did. This is what we agreed to. You will see the mediator's signature there, you will see the chairwoman's signature there, and you will see my signature there. And what you see there is the mediated agreement that came out of that. What you do not see there is any of the previous issues that I talked about that was on the table. Because the mediation did not cover those things. It simply covered how much it was going to cost and the duration. From there, we did attempt to go back to the county and talk about, hey, here's some serious issues we have as it relates to local governance. Unfortunately, that was categorized as trying to slip something in last minute. I'm here to tell you that's not exactly the case. What happened is, after we signed this mediated agreement, we went back to go through the IGA, the actual intergovernmental agreement itself, that had the terms in there that I laid out before that we had problems with. We never reneged or went back on this agreement. $13 million for 1 year is what we agreed upon, and what we stuck to the fact that we were going to agree upon. What we did not agree upon was the intergovernmental agreement. However, the county went forward on that following Tuesday, with that Monday being a holiday, and they passed the intergovernmental agreement on their side. What happened on that following Wednesday was we had a city council meeting, and the city council at that point in time voted unanimously on a resolution. On a resolution, not the IGA. They granted approval for myself to go forward in conjunction with our city attorney and our city manager to negotiate, finalize, and execute on this agreement. Now, I'll tell you simply what I did was I got with our other city leadership, we went through this, and we found that there was those issues. I won't recount them because we've already gone through those. But when bringing those issues to the county, at that point in time, we were told, we've already approved the agreement, we're not moving on it. I think the term was we're not budging. That's unfortunate because that's what led to the last 2 weeks of issues. It's not what we wanted. We didn't see conflict. We've been working diligently, very hard throughout this to come to an agreement. But when we're faced with a situation where we had an agreement on the table, we then decided to go through the details of the intergovernmental agreement, which were not deliberated. We were shut down. And that's unfortunate because I think we could have made some middle ground and we could have gotten to this resolution much faster. But I'm happy to say we did get there. We got there. It's not a perfect agreement, as I said before. There are still issues that I think that personally I would like to see addressed and changed. But again, like any negotiation, any agreement, you're not going to get everything that you want. So thus, we will move forward. Because we have to move forward. Because our goal, my goal as a mayor and our city council and people that lead the city, is that we cannot forsake local control because of someone else's governance. We're happy to partner with people. We're happy to work with anyone. But what we found out through this process is that our goal is to have reliable services, clear funding, a local accountability, and a plan that keeps the city from reaching another deadline agreement where uncertainty is there. We weren't looking for uncertainty. We were looking for an agreement. So I'm going to pivot a little bit because what we've also been doing is we've been listening a lot to what people have been talking about, not only the last 2 weeks, but the last 2 years, the last 3 years. And there's an item that I want to touch on here, which is about the issue of city light. And I said I'm not going to talk a whole lot about the past, but I want to touch on this one because it's very important right now. Because a lot of people have said, well, we're supposed to be city light. We're only supposed to provide 3 services. That's it. Because that's what the law says, and that's what the city of Mableton said when they got started, and that's what everyone agreed to. And I'm here to tell you that's not accurate. Now, I'm not here to debate what happened at a campaign in 2022 or any candidate campaign in 2023. But what I'm here to tell you is, under the law, the city of Mableton has been established, I mentioned before, as any other city in this state. We have not only the duty, but the responsibility and authority to provide every single service, every one of them. Cobb County is not responsible for providing a single service to this city. They have done so, and I'm grateful for them for doing so. For the services that we've all been receiving, the services that we negotiated, and for those that are shared amongst all counties, all cities within the county, because there are some. However, the idea of city light, in the way I'll explain this is, city light is how you start a city. And you will go back to those cities of the past. You can go look at Sandy Springs. Guess what Sandy Springs provides now? A law enforcement service, a police department. The city of Tucker, who started off as city light, they now have a police department. Brookhaven has a police department. Even Peachtree Corners, who wasn't started that long ago, are now evaluating starting their own police department. So someone said online, they said, who lied about this? Someone must have lied because we were told that we were city light and that's what we were going to be. Nobody lied. We did start off as city light. And I'm happy we did. But how you start a city is not how a city continues to evolve and to grow. And that's what we've continued to do. So to start off as a city light model, we've been able to accomplish a lot of things with that. We were able to start off by having a strong, healthy fund balance. We were able to save millions of dollars in the way that we started. We were able to forego levying local property taxes for 3 years. Ladies and gentlemen, we're the only city in this county that does not have a local property tax. If you live anywhere else in the city, you pay county taxes as well as local city taxes. Now again, not to go back to 2022 or 2023, but there were a lot of people that talked about how we were going to have taxes right off the bat Now, tax was going to be raised and a lot of other things that were said. It hasn't happened. However, we continue to evolve, we continue to move forward. City Light is not an act of permanency. City Light was how we started a city. And what's becoming clear now is that we have to evaluate every single services. You see now, we provide business licenses, planning and zoning, permitting, code enforcement. Our own municipal court that is now up and running. We have comms, administration, internal, and the rest. As you can see, we are now providing most of the services that cities do. There's a couple of services we still don't. DOT, obviously. We don't have a public facilities department, so we don't do our own roads, our own road maintenance. We will still contract with the county for that. But you will see here our fiscal approach, and I've just mentioned this. We have not levied a property tax. To date, city operations have been funded through insurance premiums, business licenses, occupational taxes, permits, fees, and other local revenue. So we are able to have a healthy fund balance. We're able to balance our budget every year. We're now up to a $57 million budget, but as we're squarely in line, I have to step back for a second. I even have to think to myself sometimes. We are the 12th largest city in this state. We're the largest city in Cobb County, 80,000 people. When I talk to other mayors and other city council people from around the metro area, they marvel at how we're able to do what we're able to do without levying a property tax. They wonder why we wouldn't just make our job easier just by levying a property tax and having a budget much larger. We can get all these things done with no problem. What we've done, what I've done, what our city council has done, has maintained vigilance around the fact that the last place we're going to look is in your pockets for general property tax. And I'll state this as well. I want to move forward a bit with this, and I may not even get to this right off the bat. But people ask about a special service district because the idea is where are we going to put this $13 million? How are we going to pay the $9.5 million? And we've established a special service district. In this special service district, it is a tax. We've looked at providing other ways. But we landed on the best way we could go forward with this, since everyone needs law enforcement services and public safety, is to do this as a tax. However, what we are doing is we're making sure that it goes to a special service district. Now, a special service district and a general property tax, what's the difference? Mayor, you're just talking. What's the difference? Again, we've listened. What we've asked the county to do even earlier, to say, hey, why don't we have a special service district? That way, if you as a city need a service from the county, then you could subscribe almost to that service, pay a certain amount, a certain millage, and you then could receive those services. What we've done, in absence of that, is we created that at the city level. It's no different what all of us here in Mableton pay through the Cobb Fire Fund. Because we don't have a fire department in the city, we pay 2.99 mills so that we get fire service. We simply ask the county to do the same thing with police. We would pay into that. I'm not going to get into the minutia of why or why not that hasn't happened, but we decided to do it ourselves. And for us, it was important for us to do that because transparency and accountability is important. So through a special service district for public safety, here's what you're going to get. Our estimate right now is $4.5 million. $4.5 million, and I'll get to that slide, but I want to keep going. Is the point around accountability and transparency is when money goes into a public safety fund through that special service district, that money has to be used for public safety, which is completely different than money going into a general fund, which is where your property taxes go, because it can go almost anywhere from that point. What I want you fine people to be able to know is that any money that we put towards public safety is going to stay there. The results from our public safety that you're going to see is directly comes from funds that you will pay for that. Unlike what you see now, when you put money into the general fund of the property taxes you pay, you don't know where that money goes. You don't know what it's funding, and there's no, or I'll just say you don't know exactly where that money goes, right? So I'm going to move forward to a couple of things here because what we decided to do going forward, you will hear us talk about public safety and creating a public safety division, which is inherently different than just saying we're going to stand up a police department. Because one thing that our city council and myself was very specific about was public safety takes on a different connotation. Public safety covers more than just people patrolling. Public safety covers more than just making sure we lock up bad guys. Public safety for us is about how do you build a total environment around public safety that not only includes law enforcement police services, but it also includes quality of life through our code enforcement. It also includes emergency preparedness and emergency management. And it also includes issues around court and physical safety and protection of our assets. So we see this as a fuller system in a broader spectrum than just law enforcement services. So when the city of Mableton, when we talk about public safety, we're not just talking about police. So for those of you that have asked, what are we going to get? We're going to get the exact same thing. And my answer to you is, you're not. What you're going to get for the first time ever in the city of Mableton, South Cobb, is a dedicated, united public safety entity that is dedicated to the people and the residents of Mableton. We haven't had that before. Even over the last couple of years, what we had was a shared service. We did have police service, and a really good one, but it wasn't dedicated. It was still a shared service. What we found, and what we will still stand by, the fact is now we have an opportunity to where the local police force, the local court system, your local code enforcement office, as well as our local security will all be able to work together in tandem with emergency management to provide a holistic public safety system that we've never seen here before. I'm pretty excited about that. So here's the thing. When we evaluate this, and I've said this before, is that we should evaluate every single service that we provide. I've already mentioned the fact that we have to provide every service. Now what we have to decide as a city is, are those services worth us funding ourselves, or are those services we should outsource to someone else? And in certain instances, we might not be given a choice about that matter. But we have to look at items like cost, quality of service, responsiveness, accountability, and long-term value. And I will say, I think with most of those, Cobb County Police and the Sheriff's Office have done a great job in doing that. But when we look at what a long-term value could be, as we continue to grow and as our needs continue to expand, as we continue to look at the cost of what those services from an external entity would cost us, you start to look at those, and you run those calculations out, and you look at what enhanced services we could get from having our own. And that's how we make a determination, not only with police service, but with every service. And that's what we will continue to do. So we applied that to public safety. We use those same metrics around that. And what we've determined is public safety at this point is too important to leave to another dependency, to an external entity, and most importantly, to lead to uncertainty. We have to be certain about where our public safety is going to go. So this new direction leads us in a stronger, more self-determined pathway. It doesn't reject partnerships. We still will continue to partner with the county and with other law enforcement services. There's mutual aid and other things that we will do. So we'll continue to partner. Hopefully we'll continue to learn. We will continue to grow. So this public safety division, as I mentioned before, will cover more than that, more than just law enforcement. It covers emergency management preparedness, code enforcement, community outreach and public safety education, technology and data support, where we hope to gain a lot of efficiencies around that, and municipal court coordination. So the safety vision that we have is clear. This is the goals. And our city manager's talked long about this as a public safety professional in this county for 30 years, about how we move forward being professional, how we remain and stay community focused, how we have transparency and accountability to each and every person, how do we make sure we have efficiencies? I mentioned about technology earlier. How are we going to make sure that we have, that we're prepared for emergencies? Many of you know we're prone to flood around here every once in a while. We need to make sure we have preparedness and ready for that. And at the end of the day, we have a law enforcement and public safety that's designed uniquely for our needs. We have the ability to do that now. So I'm going to move past some of this, our planning process, which you guys will see how we'll go to long term, how we'll continue to evaluate what's going to work best. We'll continue to look at what other cities have done and continue to partner and look to the county as to what things work, how do we set up the best process we could. I've talked about some of this funding before. If money is allocated for public safety, it should be used for public safety. You will hear me say that now, you'll hear me say that later, you will continue to hear us say that, because that is why we're putting this in the public safety special service district. I mentioned about the cost, it's $13 million, we still owe the $9.5, that we will pay all of this law enforcement, whether it's our public safety or to the Cobb County, we pay through our dedicated public safety special service district. This is not funding that will come from something else. It will come specifically from public safety. We've created that already. What we have not done yet is attach that specific millage yet. We're very close to that, and we will do so relatively soon. We want to make sure that we have the specific carve-outs for our seniors, as well as our 100% disabled veterans. We committed to that. Our council has committed to that, and that is how we're going to go forward. Our goal here is not to place an undue burden on anyone. Never has been. But we will continue to focus on local control. We'll continue to focus to make sure that our dollars are focused and our dollars are spent to where they need to be. Now, I've talked about special service district. Here's some of the items we're still reviewing. As I mentioned before, the final fund rate. We've said 4.5 mils are where we are right now. I think our finance director is right over there. And I just asked about this again today. That is where we are still tracking. That's where we expect to be at 4.5 mils. Many are saying 4.5 mils, what does that look like? What does that mean? And there are charts. Everyone can do the calculations around what that means. As we move forward with this. Long-term service costs, again, what does it mean to have a full service public safety division, what those costs are going to be, how we're making sure that that is funded through the special service district, municipal court coordination, and ensuring that our courts are being handled in the right way they should, and that there's revenues that are generated from that make sure our courts stay solvent as well. Our staffing, equipment, facilities needs. We're going to have to have a location for our police department. There's no secret about that. We're already working on that. There are efforts that we're doing. We're seeking grant funding as well from the federal government to make sure that we are able to get federal funds to be able to help bolster us in these efforts. Personally, I've been in touch with our members of our Senate and our Congress to make sure that we're allocating for those funds to happen. Timelines for future recommendation. Just like any law enforcement or professional services, you're going to start, but where you start is not where you're going to end, right? We're going to build, we're going to grow, we're going to evolve. Again, we have a city manager that spent 30 years in public safety in this city. We have a councilman who is a former law enforcement official. We have members of this council who've served a long time in the military, who work in technology. We have the capability, and we've already hired external members and former police chiefs to be consultants with us to help us along the way. So we're prepared, we're ready. What does success look like? It's simple. Have a clear plan, to be able to speak with you clearly about what we're doing, to have a clear funding, which I think I've mentioned, to have resident input, which is why we're here tonight, to continue to have council direction on where we go and how we build out this public safety division. And lastly, get prepared for operational readiness. I have no doubt that we're going to be able to have simply one of the best, most innovative, most customer, constituent-focused public safety divisions around. And that is a commitment that I want to make. I'm sure it extends out to our council, and I'm sure it extends out to our city staff. So with that, your input is matters. We have a survey that we're going to send out as well. I think there's going to be a QR code for this as well to make sure that your input is had on this. Again, this speaks to the survey that we were just talking about, that we're going to make sure it's out there. There's a QR code there. We'll go later on to that to make sure you guys have for that. What happens after tonight? Take the survey. We want to review those. We want your input. We want your feedback. And let me say this. The survey is here for you to voice your opinion on how we go forward. I've heard a tremendous amount over the last couple of weeks about how we shouldn't be a city, how we should be recalled. You can clap for that if you want. That's your prerogative to do so. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. That's fine. That's fine. What I will ask you to do so, however, is you're still a resident of the city of Mableton. What I'll ask you to do is still fill out this survey, okay? Because whether you want the city or not, your voice still matters to us, okay? Your voice still matters to us, whether you want the city or not. Because our job is still to protect you. Our job is still to be here for you. So we'll continue to do that. So please take a moment and fill out this form. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave this up here because I think what's after this is just a Q&A. So I'm going to back at this. You can see this form now. This link will take you to Our website, we have additional information listed on the website, so you can see some information that's publicly available. It relates to what I was talking about tonight. There's also the survey. There's also a specific page that talks about our road to local control. Please take the time to look at that. Thank you for your time. It was hard to try to fit everything I wanted to fit in such a small amount of time. However, what I want to make sure we do now, there's 2 microphones, and I know we have there's no survey on that?
Yes, you just have to scroll down. You just have to scroll down. It's the city website.
Okay. So,
Towards the bottom.
what I want at this point, are 2 microphones. So at this point in time, I want to hear some questions and some feedback. So I'm going to ask that my city manager, our members of our finance team come up. If I could get our chief of staff, you're at one side. Where is Justin for the other? Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, if you do have a question or comment or concern, please come to the mic and ask your question, and we're going to do our best to make sure we answer them tonight. We've got just a time check. It's 7:03. I think we got till 8 o'clock, so we're left almost a full hour for your questions this evening. Okay, sir. Yes.
I'm Joshua Kirk. I'm from District 4. So you mentioned several other cities and moving to policing, but I think something that's important to look at is, yes, we did have a mandate on a small city, but moving past that, as you said, those other cities have had significant issues with revenue policing, going out and ticketing aggressively on interstates, on roads, civil asset signatures, things like that. We've had plenty of news recently on that. And so my question is, how is this city going to build and afford a police department without hitting the residents hard or ending up with a small police department that is more concerned about getting grants and revenue than actually serving the people of this city? Because this is a long historical problem in this state, and I don't want to put up with it.
Sure. I can. Thank you for that question. Hopefully we've already gone a long way towards solving that through a special service district. Because what happens is our officers don't have to hit the beat every day looking to give out a ticket to make sure we have revenue. A special service district, as mentioned before, is estimated right now to have $21 million a year for public safety. So that means our officers don't have to do that. We've had that forethought. We don't want that consternation within our city. We don't want our officers to have to decide whether they need to go out and spend more time in the community building relationships or going out writing more tickets for revenue. We've built that in so we know exactly what that budget is. It's transparent. We are accountable for it, and we don't have to have those problems. So thank you for that question. Yes, sir.
I have some questions. I'm trying to go real quick. So last year we paid $9.5 million for Cobb County services. This year we're paying $13 million. So we got an extra roughly $4 million, $3.5 million increase. But it also doesn't include any of the stuff that you just mentioned before. So then we also, it was an 8.4 mill rate that we paid in our property taxes, and that doesn't count for anything. So where's that extra money that we were paying for those services in that mill rate going that we should be getting as a resident in the county? Now, I also want to know, what is the startup cost? What did you project the startup cost for this emergency service division? Because again, when you're doing your mill rate at 4.5, roughly at an assessed value of a $300,000 house, that's 120, that's about 40%, and that'd be about $545 or something like that, roughly, that you'd be asking to add onto our tax bill. That would probably go up as well when the school districts and the fire department want extra money as well. So we're going to be looking at that so everybody understands. So, and my other thing, where are you going to locate these, this department or this special services? Where are they going to be housed? We're going to talk about cars, uniforms, training, and salaries. So where is all that money going to come from as a resident, so we can get some bare bones facts, we get some numbers, some real numbers?
Sure. I don't necessarily want to repeat myself, sir, but those are good questions. And I'll answer them again the same way I did before, through our special service district. Special Service District is projected to have $21 million. So whether that is the 13 that we are paying for this year or the 9.5 that we're on the hook for last year, that money still comes from the same place, okay? As it relates to the money fluctuating or paying 9.5 or 8.5 versus 13, what I can tell you is this: the county has the right to charge whatever they want to for their service. Right? We successfully negotiated 9.5 this year. We asked for 9.5 again this year. Wasn't happening. Okay? So we were able to negotiate to $13 million. So any given year, the cost could be different. As long as you only have a one-year agreement, which is the reason we sought a long-term agreement, so that we didn't have fluctuations from year to year. But quite frankly, and with all due respect, that's not an answer for us, that's an answer for the county, because they determine two things that relate to your questions. Number one, they determine what they're going to charge for the service. And then secondly, that 8.46 mil that you talk about, all of those funds go to the county, okay? And go into their general fund. The county gets to dictate and determine how those funds are used or what those funds are used for. So I cannot sit here and tell you how the county delineates funds that they receive from us and then how they distribute those funds out. I have asked those questions, many have asked those questions, but to be honest, that's a question that you need to take to the Board of Commissioners during their next meeting or at any meeting and ask those if you want those answers. All right. The last part of that was where we're going to have our police office at and where we're going to have our cars. That is something from an operational perspective we're going to continue to work through. We've got a year to do that. I just mentioned, I think we have a couple of things in the works. We can't explicitly talk about it right now because it's within real estate, so we literally can't divulge that, but we are working on it. We do have a plan going forward about, at least right now, where we plan to be able to house our vehicles. But those are things that I would implore you to take to the county commission for those answers. Because look, we're one side of this. We're one half of the solution, right? This is the city. You're more than welcome to go to the county to ask those specific questions that the county should have. Can we go to this side? I think that's a chairwoman herself. Yes, it is.
You don't have to go to the county's right here. Yes, the mic, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Not well. Look, the best way for us to move forward is to move forward together. The best way for us to move forward is to do it together. And I'm trying to keep my peace and be respectful of the forum because there is a lot of texture to the conversation that is making it appear as if that has not been the interest of the county, that we have not taken into consideration certain things that I'm seeing up here. I've been reaching out to my staff and they're saying they did not even have discussion about some things that you're seeing here today. I'm not going to go through things tit for tat. The mayor's correct. This is Cobb County's first city, and we are all learning through this. But I think we learn through it by speaking factually. We learn through it by coming together with less spin. Now, with respect to the question that was asked about fluctuating costs of public services, we are not pulling numbers out of a grab bag when it comes to public service. This is not a number that goes up willy-nilly year after year and we decide, oh, Mableton, we want to give you this number. When Cobb County first evaluated what the cost of public safety would be by assessing the costs along a myriad of areas, they came up with a number of 22 million. That is not variable. In negotiating with Mableton, we decided to take out some of those costs that are spread across the county, like investigative costs. We did not put on Mableton. Like our real-time crime center, we pulled out of those numbers. Some other costs that are carried throughout the system and said we can come up with 18.5. When we sat down and negotiated with Mableton from 18.5, Mableton gave us a number around 10 million. Then that number became 0 when there were thoughts that would go to the state and have the state see how they could get services. at least it was what we heard. Then it came to 10. Then as we negotiated, we got to a number of 13 and a half. The number of 13 and a half was given in consideration that public safety would be provided for 1 year. Cobb County never initiated to Mableton that we would only provide you service for 1 year. Let me make that very clear. That was never anything that the county put on the table, was to only provide public safety for 1 year.
She is correct, ladies and gentlemen. She is absolutely correct. She's correct. What they put on the table was 3 years. We could get no more than 3 years. We walked in the door asking for an agreement. I'm sorry to cut you off, ma'am. We walked in the door asking for an agreement for 2030 until 2034. What we were offered was an agreement for 3 years, maximum with no extensions. That is what we were offered.
Let me provide some clarity to that. So 3 years was offered when it became clear that Mableton would not approach the 18.5 million. So we said if the police are not going to be paid the cost of providing services, let's consider an exit ramp. We thought it would be 5 years. Then it was thought about 3 years. To our surprise, it came back 1 year at the number. So the county said, okay, 1 year, if we can forego losing the amount of money that the county feels that public safety will cost at its real cost for only 1 year, as opposed to 3 or 5 years, we will accept that offer. That's how we got to that number. So any number about, well, for long term, we don't know what the county will give us, that is not how we would operate. The plan was similar to our DOT IGA with Mableton. We would take a look at 3-year and 5-year history, and then we would prorate it along the way. So if you looked at the last 3 years and got an average that this would be the cost, moving forward, you would take 3 years to get the cost. So there is no flip. You are constantly smoothing those costs out over time so that there would not be anything unreasonable to come to the citizens of Mableton. Now, is it fair when you expect to pay nothing? No. And is Mableton doing anything wrong by trying to negotiate the least amount that it could pay for services? No. At the end of the day, we are trying to get to a number that is reasonable for both sides. But what I do not want is for us to be painted in a way of which we did not present ourselves through this negotiation process, or in a way that is not factual. Should Mableton have desired to continue services with Cobb County, we would have asked for it to be closer to the cost of providing that service. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Sir, you're recognized.
Good afternoon and evening. My name is Corey Jiggets. I'm a 15-year resident of District 5 now here in the city of Mableton. I've listened very intently to your presentation today. You've certainly presented a very compelling case for why this vision you've laid out before us is the right path for the citizens of this city to walk down. The gentleman before me at the mic began to get into issues and concerns and a desire for understanding of how the numbers truly shake out here. And from my perspective as a citizen, from the very beginning, everything for me has been about transparency. And so my question and my desire for you and the rest of this council is to commit yourselves to just bottom line transparency to these citizens about what costs have we incurred up to this point where we're making this divergence, and what costs in comparison are we about to take on.
Sure.
Because there's been a lot of words said in this presentation, there's been a lot of flowery, and this is just the way I feel about it, a lot of flowery suggestions of what benefits we're going to get out of this. But the bottom line is, how much does it cost? Because the bottom line is, while I can accept that any city is going to continuously transform. There were very clear things promised to the citizens now of this city as we started. And we are truly starting to diverge along a path where transparency about the cost is absolute. And as a citizen, I feel like I cannot accept anything else. So what I implore upon you and this council is to commit yourselves to delivering that to us on paper so that we can see what it was we were getting, what it was we were paying, and what it was we are about to invest in. And I think with that, you can get the buy-in that you're looking for. But if we continue to play this game where we're going to not be completely transparent about what's happened and where we're going, then you're going to continue to get disgruntled citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I'll alternate.
Okay, I was gonna watch Love Island tonight for some drama, but I think we're getting cleaner. Okay, so I just want to clarify some data points, Mr. Mayor. The millage, I'll call it the surprise, where we thought what we were paying Cobb was going to apply, but then to public safety, but then it's not going to apply. When was that? First of all, A, that was not known in the feasibility study.
Mr. Diamante, is that you?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Are we going to litigate 2022 or 2023? Or are we going to focus on going forward and where we are?
Yeah, so I think it's fair to understand the architecture of the city, because if a...
But if you're asking, I'm only going to say that because if you're asking me questions that I can't answer, or none of us can answer, because we're not Cobb County government, I can't tell you where those are going or when, who knew what as it relates to that.
Okay, so when was the city aware of Cobb's stance on the millage not applying to the public services, like police?
2020, late 2023 was the first time that the county approached us about a cost for police services.
Okay, and this was not caught in the feasibility study?
I had nothing to do with the feasibility study, sir.
You were voted in on that?
No, I wasn't. No, I was voted by the residents and the citizens. Let's decouple two things here because there's a lot of conflation. The campaign and the election for the city of Mableton happened in 2022.
Yes.
Candidates that got elected was in 2023. They're two totally different elections. Let's not conflate the two together.
Okay, I just want to have clarity on how a $22 million oopsie daisy happened. Is that fair?
Go ahead with your question.
Is that fair?
Go with your question, sir.
I've asked one, or I've asked two. You say part of the sticking point was Cobb, or excuse me, Mableton would have to go to Cobb in order to get permission to get a grant. Has Cobb County ever denied a grant? Is it just like a rubber stamp, or is there like an actual legitimate chain of events that would say, hey, the county's crazy about getting grant approval, we got to get out ahead of this?
We don't know. Right? That was a provision that was put in the IGA, and I mean, the county has partnered with us on things. They continue to partner with us on things. So, like, to create a conflict where there isn't one, I don't see the benefit in that.
Exactly, which is why I don't understand why you brought that up as a sticking point. We are
Well-
here,
Because it's a matter in the IGA.
what I'm trying to say, it seemed as if it was something that was negative about working with the county, that the county would be aware. If there's partnership with the county, there are some things that the county is going to be responsible for, which is why that request is made, that when grants are applied for, please let the county know so we can coordinate. Similar when it comes to events that are on Mableton roads, whenever there's an event on county roads, we have to coordinate with fire, we coordinate police, because there are multiple services associated with it. It's not to take anything away from Mableton's local control, it's to make sure that all the actors who are responsible for the safety of those streets are coordinated, that they're well aware of what's going on so that they can properly respond. And I just didn't appreciate that being viewed as a negative, as us taking away your local control. This is about us partnering to keep our streets safe, as we would for any jurisdiction.
And then I'll just say I wish that we could have gotten to that place. I asked. Next, ma'am.
Yeah, my name is Indigo Gray. requested by one of the police officers to come to the town meeting. I know this is about, funding for public safety, but I don't know if the public even care about their safety. For the amount of crime that I have experienced in my neighborhood, just blatantly in broad daylight, and nobody is reporting this crime to me, I think this is one of the most god-awful places to live in the face of all the United States. You have people wiretapping, you have people invading people's privacy, doing things what they call sophisticated crime. Police officers come to your house and say you have a mental health problem when you report stalking, and things of these natures. Neighbors don't call the police, they aid in the bed. So I don't know what plan you have to make this place better, but I don't see it getting any better. They do it everywhere you go. You don't stalk people in broad daylight, all in gas stations. Police officers are pulling people over, hearing people yell at me, preaching peace, breaking nuisance ordinance, and still these people are still doing the same thing. That's why I'm here. So I don't know what your $13 million is going to pay you, but public safety is important. You're allowing criminals to break the law that are not even taxpayers, and people that are paying taxpayers are being victimized by criminals. It doesn't work that way. You have to have people in office that are ethical, that really care. When that happens, you're going to get whatever you need, whatever monetary fund you need, you're going to get that because your citizens in your community are going to work hard to make sure that happens. Well, you guys, my time is not up until you say my time's up. You don't control me. So I suggest you shut up. Because you have a problem with me since I came here from honey. I'm 46, you know I'm grown. You don't know, you watch your mouth, okay? I promise you this ain't the one. Now back to what I was saying.
Finish your thought, ma'am.
Excuse me. So what I'm saying is, that's the reason that I'm here, because the police officer told me to come here. Because when you report crimes of wiretapping, eavesdropping, and stalking and private information, your lay police officers act like they don't investigate these crimes. They close the cases, don't pass them to detectives and special units, and these people death threat these type of people, and these are the type of crimes you need to deal with. Because it's people like this right here why you're going to need a bigger fund that run their mouth and tell somebody what they're doing. When they're trying to keep, you don't tell me what I'm doing. You don't tell me what to do. Bye, I'm leaving.
Thank you for your time, ma'am. Mr. Murphy.
Mr. Mayor, I pretty much that's something. I guess that's another reason when you think of public safety, this is what you have to be prepared for. My name is Michael Murphy, and I guess unlike many other folks here, I was a candidate back in 22. And I remember my elevator speech as if it was yesterday. And I know that I don't hear another ring doorbell for the rest of my life. I've heard enough. But the people that did come to the door asked the question, my taxes go up. And I will not debate you on the fact of it. I'm not a prognosticator, but I would venture to say, if people knew that public safety was what was going to be part of voting for the city of Mableton, I don't know exactly it would have passed. I'm reminded of the quote by Michael Doyle that says the power of consensus comes from inclusion. And I don't feel we've been included in citizens. It seems like it's already been made. The decisions have already been made. You feel like water in a sink. You pull out the stopper, we're going circles. And I noticed up there you had the word effective. I don't think government can be effective. Pardon me, efficient. It can be effective, but not efficient. I noticed the absence of animal control. A deer carcass laid on Veterans Memorial Highway for almost 2.5 days. I suspect it laid there because, Mr. Mayor, that people didn't know whether it was the county or the city. As I was going to vote on Friday afternoon, I called animal control, and I told them where the carcass was. But nobody had called because people are confused. We're in the dark. And so I simply say that, just not only, we're going to get transparency through inclusion. And to know, my wife texted me and said on the news an agreement had been reached. And we were meeting here tonight. I mean, the optics would have been better, don't you think, if we at least had the meeting and released the information later. We feel like we're here. And last but not least, along with the police, is going to be recruitment. I would bet you that if you took a survey of the 25-mile radius of this city, there would be at least 350 vacancies. And you will learn like Cobb County learned. The next thing you know, we want take-home cars. Well, guess what? The cars will be parked elsewhere because they couldn't afford to live in Cobb County. They can't be necessarily to live in the city of Mableton. So I simply say that going forward, I ask that you allow us to be a part of what goes into this thing. I see the survey, but we will promise stand-up committees, the opportunity for us to be involved, but the phones and things remain silent. We haven't heard. So again, I appreciate this meeting taking place. I would just say it's been long overdue. And I think of the council member who put forth a motion to have something like this at least 6 months ago. At least you would have known what our expectations were.
Thank you for that, sir. And I will go back and say, Mr. Murphy, as someone who comes diligently to our meetings, you are well more informed than most about the transparency that we bring to the council at least twice a month. What I'll also say is that when you mentioned about animal control is the one service that all cities and counties participate in. And that's an idea that we have with the county. And again, each city participates in animal control by the county. So there would be no reason for confusion at all, whether it's municipal or as county, because that is the one service that you brought up that everybody uses. So I understand how there could be some confusion here or there, but that is a service that has not changed. Ma'am.
Good evening, and being respectful of the room, we have citizens. My name is Patricia Thomas, and I'm a 34-year resident of Cobb County, a 29-year resident of Mableton. I love where I live. I have enjoyed Cobb County for all of these years. However, I see a change in the way that we're doing things. The city of Mableton, of course, was voted on and decided that it would be a city. But we also have residents that did not agree to this city, and they have strong feelings about it. I think that we need to, and to piggyback off what he just said, we need to continue to be totally transparent with everything. We don't give presentations that kind of sway the room. What we do is just stick to the facts. Just say exactly and precisely what it is that we will be doing as a city. We enjoy this area. We're excited, and we're trying to bring the rest of anyone in on it, on this excitement. We're excited that we're the city of Mableton. But when I hear words like attached millage, and it was like gently given in the presentation, the audience would like to know exactly what that means financially, right? I'm a senior citizen in the community, and we have other residents that this hits them hard in their pocketbook. And so we need to be respectful of that pocketbook and respectful of the way that we work together. The full transparency being that. And I want to ask the question, what is the urgency? And I'm excited about this city growing, and I know that it's going to grow and be a beautiful location in the future. But what is the urgency of doing public safety now when we're all standing in a rented facility? Like to give our points across, right? We don't have a place we need a home.
Sure.
Right? So that we can be a city and you can have an office and we can come in there and hit the table, and discuss things with you, right? We need our council members to have a place where they can privately meet with us and have discussions. And so I just want to know the urgency with doing this when we haven't done the rest.
Sure. So this is where I will say sometimes conflicting priorities come into account, because I've heard people say, well, if public safety is number one, why didn't y'all start a police force day one, right? And I've also heard people that say we should never have our own police force. I've heard people say that we should have our own city hall, but I also hear people say that we should not be spending taxpayer dollars on government facilities, we should spend them elsewhere. right? So as we do our job and listen to the diaspora of ideas that are out there, there's not going to be a single path that everyone is agreed on to go forward. What we have done is we do have an administrative office as well as an operational office, so you can come to my office and bang your hand down if you want. That's fine.
You know, I know.
Come on.
I know that.
But what we had to do there was invest in the community. We went into an old strip mall, right? And broke it down and built something, one of the nicer places. We don't have Class A office space in the city. We barely have any Class B office space. I think people forget sometimes that we are a city, whether you voted for it or not, largely because people were clamoring because they wanted things that we did not have in this part of the county. We don't have office buildings. We don't have a lot of nice things that other part of the county has. So there were people that said, maybe we should do something about that. But how we do so and when we do, it's always going to be up for interpretation, right? Because some people want to spend money on this, other people want to spend money on that. What I will say is we just have our second budget now that we have up for adoption at our next meeting. Those things are laid out, but no one in this room is going to agree on exactly what we should do with it.
Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes. All right, next question. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Robin Meyer. I live in District 3. And unlike most of the folks that spoken tonight, I don't have a comment or a suggestion related to the overall big picture question here, but I have a very strongly held opinion about one of the details. And that detail is how the senior exemption that has been discussed is actually implemented. I think it's great that the city is cognizant of the challenges that some seniors face, some low-income seniors face. The reality is that not all seniors are low income. And please, 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 City of Mableton, do not get yourself in the same bucket with the Cobb County School Board, which has an across-the-board exemption for seniors on school taxes. So the school board is walking away from revenue from seniors who can well afford to pay school taxes. When you look at this.
All right, let's be respectful. I'm gonna say this, anytime someone's speaking, this is a town hall for our citizens of Mableton. You may not agree with what they're saying, but let's be respectful of each other. If somebody's speaking, allow them to speak, please. Please continue.
I fully support the approach to providing a tax exemption for low-income seniors. Let me state that one more time. I fully support an exemption for low-income seniors. However, not all seniors are low-income. The seniors who do not pay the millage rate for the special services district, that income is going to have to be made up someplace, and it will be paid by the rest of the citizens of Mableton who are not seniors. And some of them are having a very difficult time raising children, saving up money to buy a house, saving up money to fix the car, whatever it may be, simply because you've reached a magic number. You've lived long enough to reach that magic number. Does not mean that you should automatically be exempted from your civic responsibilities.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Let's go over here.
Running your residents. I'm trying to wrap my head around how expanding government's going to be more efficient. I mean, you talk about building a new police force, you got to buy squad cars. You got to have them fit bells and whistles. They're not cheap. Then you got to have insurance. You got to have health care for the officers. You got to hire a whole police force. You got to appoint a police captain or chief. I don't see how that's going to be more efficient than just staying with Cobb County. Like I say, then you're going to save money.
Can I answer that question?
Sure, please.
And I know the chairwoman came up and spoke, but I'm gonna always tell y'all there's always two sides of any discussion. I agree with her, we gotta move forward. But this town hall is here for you citizens, and we're gonna try to make sure you understand some real basic things. Bottom line, and the chairwoman just said this, they were not gonna give us police services for free. So either we're gonna pay the county, or we're gonna keep the money from police. It's not that we had a choice. If the county would have said no charges, there was notice, if they would have said 0 for police, we would have took that deal in a heartbeat. But that deal was not on the table. So this council has to make a decision. If you're going to pay for police, are you going to pay the county for police? And that price was, I think first price was $22 million. And when we did our own study and research, we found out we can do a startup for less than that and maybe maintain an apartment for less than that. Then it makes no sense when we talk about not efficiency, but we're looking at what's the cost savings to the city. If we got to pay them $22 million, and it did come down to this one-year deal, and it was also $15 million and $18 million. But if we're going to pay in excess of that, and let's say we can do it for less than that cost and then have control over a police officer, it made more sense to this council not to have to go back and forth. So it wasn't about what was more efficient, it was about what was more expensive.
I'm just saying, they've already got the equipment and everything.
But they wanted money.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, is it gonna cost more to go out and buy more stuff?
It was going to cost us $22 million from the city to the county. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, what's it gonna cost to buy these squad cars and insurance and health plans?
Not $22 million.
I'm gonna say, it's gonna
We have calculated to be less than that amount.
okay, then after
Well, I worked in public safety for 30 years. We have Billy Grogan. Where are you at, Billy Grogan? Billy Grogan started the police department and Brookhaven department. Dunwoody. We have experienced police chiefs who have ran police departments. We have a subject matter experts who have given us the calls. And so, nothing personally, I'm going to answer your question, but we didn't just shoot off the hip. We talked to experts who've done this, who have ran police departments. We've done our numbers. The county came up with a formula based on average response calls. We looked at what a cost service for ours is. We took up with cars that there's lease options. There are ways to fund things with special service district. So when I tell you, for us, it was more cost efficient to do it ourselves. And I have to go on to the next question so we don't miss out. And sir, if you have been up here before, I'm going to try to go to people who have not. Next question over here.
I'm gonna try to bring the temperature down because my blood pressure can't take it. What I will say is, first and foremost, thank you to the mayor and council. I can only imagine how tough it is to go enter into these negotiations. I think a lot of citizens are operating from a lack of understanding because none of us were involved in those negotiations. So it doesn't make sense for anyone to speculate about what was said, what wasn't said, what should have been said, and what shouldn't have been said. So first and foremost, thank you guys for doing this. I truly believe that you guys are operating in the best interest of the city. We may not like the results, but the tactic to get there is still going to be the same. It's in the interest of the city. One of the issues of points that was brought up was the couple sentences or lines in the IGA that the mayor spoke about. And I appreciate the due diligence to go and find those couple sentences or a few lines. I would rather that be discovered now versus later, because the gentleman spoke about a $21 million oopsie. I would rather you find that oopsie now as opposed to later, and then everyone is extremely upset, and then the question is, well, why didn't you see that before? And I appreciate Commissioner Cupid, but the thing that I will say is, even though Commissioner Cupid has been extremely collaborative and cooperative, Commissioner Cupid is not going to always be there. We don't know who the next commissioner is going to be and how generous or how collaborative they're going to be with the city. So at that point, it's basically what's in writing, and that's a legal document, the IGA. And if they choose not to do something because it's in the IGA, then we're stuck. What I will ask of the council is to continue to be as transparent as you possibly can be legally, as what you've been now, and continue to be transparent because you hear the questions, you hear the concerns, and the ask is just to be as transparent as possible because we're on the hook for that special service district as well as the council and mayor. You guys are on the hook for it too because last time I checked, you do live here too, so you got to pay the same taxes that we have to pay. So that's my ask, to be as transparent as possible. And also, if there is a possibility of another agreement or extending it beyond the 1 year, if that's even possible.
All right, thank you. I think that Yes, sir, thank you. The agreement is set now that, as we got that agreement, so that move forward. So, have you,
Yes,
oh, the mayor's coming back. Had you had a chance to answer your question?
I asked one question, but I didn't
Can
know
I-
if we had multiple questions.
All right, do you mind if I get someone who hasn't had a chance to talk? All right, and the lady in the back, you want to defer?
Would you like to go now?
All right, come on up.
All right, I'm Deborah Highland. I've been a resident of Cobb County for 30 years, 27 in Mableton, 23, I'm sorry, in Mableton, and now the city of Mableton. I first and foremost want to point out, we are a part of Cobb County. We all know that. Now, one thing I do want to challenge our commission, our mayor and our councilman on is the fact of this was caught very late. We all know that there are agreements in place. We knew there was an IGA. And I know we don't want to rehash things, but the only way we're going to learn and do better and be better is to learn from our mistakes. And I feel like someone dropped the ball on not bringing that to Cobb County's attention earlier. They negotiated a number based on whatever the terms of the agreement were when we went into mediation. And somehow or another, we caught at some point in time when the agreement came back, it seems, just from what I'm hearing, that these other charges were planned to be kept. To be honest, I don't feel we're ready as the city of Mableton to take on this additional things that we're expected to take on. We don't even have our website updated. We're talking about doing things over Zoom. I'm asking Mableton to step back, crawl, walk, run. We can't do this crawl and then go run in 1 year. We need to partner with Cobb County. We need to have Cobb County be transparent with us on these costs, whether it's through a third party or whoever. But we're doing it wrong right now. We're trying to rush because Big Brother done told us that he didn't like what we were doing, or we had a little disagreement in mediation. We need to put our pride to the side and come to the table, be transparent, Cobb County, because we were Cobb County paying $9 million before. Let's lay the cost on the table and be fair. Whatever their markup is, let's agree on that markup. Let's get pay for third-party assessments to make the right number. Because whatever that number is for Cobb County should be our number too. We don't want B-rated cops in Mableton City. I'm the HOA president. When I call the police when we got parties going on that we didn't authorize, they come. If they don't come, I call the major. And he has no problem responding to my email in 24 hours. We are not set up to be successful in that matter today, tomorrow, in the next 3 months, the next 6 months. We are putting our pride too far ahead. We need to slow down. Go back to the table and get this thing right. We are living like Mayberry and not Mableton. I don't want party fights in Mableton. I need better schools here. My child is graduated. I'd rather us pay Cobb County for better schools and teachers than to be spending extra money. And I say extra because I still want great police in the city of Mableton. I'd rather see some good teachers coming in here. I'd rather see us have more principals coming in here that are going to build this school and our education. Our kids are our future. And if we don't get that right, all we're going to need is more police to arrest them. So slow down. We're going too fast.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll say I agree with you 100%. Schools are vitally important. But I also want to make sure we don't conflate different budgets, right? The school system has their own budget, which is part of the property tax. Whereas if we pay $50 million for police, it would not change the budget for our school systems. I want to continue to support our school system and let them grow and build, but we can't conflate where money goes. I'll also like to say this. Going from last year's agreement to this year's agreement, it's important to note that there was no IGA in the previous year. There wasn't an agreement to look back on to decide what changed from last year to this year. There was no IGA. The first time that the city of Mableton ever saw the IGA was literally the day before.
But there was a protocol of how we were doing this
man, we've called it out a million times. Okay? But as it relates to the IGA, the agreement itself, that we did not have an agreement from the previous year. Just want to make that clear. The first time we saw this intergovernmental agreement was the day before mediation. Okay, so there wasn't something to refer back to previously, and state law provides us what we were asking for. We're not asking for anything different, we're not asking for anything extra. So just to say that we missed something that, in our perspective, should have never been in there, that's not missing something. That's the fact that, in our opinion, it didn't need to be in there. But, who are we?
We're over here now. Yeah, over there.
Okay.
Hi, I'm not a big fan of us becoming a city, but we are here. With that, I agree. The problem is that, you talked about what's unfortunate. What's unfortunate is your need to control. Everything is about control. You're not ready to control this. You're not ready to stand up a police department. The people here didn't ask for it to begin with. It's just like this meeting. You talked about transparency. We sat here, we're 20 minutes late, you preached to us for 45 minutes, we say a word, you respond with how you're right, what you've done. You don't listen to these people. You don't listen in meetings. You talk about the gentleman coming to your city council. Half the time he goes, you guys go into this executive session, 15 seconds in, screw the public that's there. They get 2 minutes to speak each, and then they need to sit down because the little timer's going off. Your sense of your need for control is something that I hope these citizens realize is already getting us in trouble. We need to change in leadership.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your comments.
So you talked about transparency. Transparency is not coming to the citizens with a decision you've already made. It's coming to the citizens in 2023 or 2024 with we have a problem. What you have done is shown up for very little accountability at best. So this talk of transparency isn't flying, and I think from the responses in the room, most of the people agree with me. But we want to get down to brass tacks again in the numbers. So you talked about $21 million and a special tax. That's fine. I'm great that it's a special fund, that's all that's going to be useful, but that doesn't say where it comes from, doesn't say how much it's going to be, and it doesn't say who it's going to hit. Now, you're talking about that you can do it cheaper. That's wonderful, except the city of South Fulton said the same thing. It is now on the hook for $100 million in city bonds. So did Dunwoody, so did Sandy Springs, and so is every other city. So if you're going to say that you can do it for $21 million, put that number on the website, put your signature under it, and say that you will not run for re-election if you don't hold to that.
Easy to say, sir. Easy to say. What I will say is this. We said $21 million. We said, where is it going to come from? It's going to come from a special service district. That amount is going to be a tax that everyone in the city is going to pay, residential and commercial. We've said exactly how much that's going to be. We've put that in our budget, which we've had 2 previews for. We've had 2 public hearings about that. The transparency is there. We've had this in our city council meetings. It's been put in the newspaper. I've been on the news saying $21 million is our estimate. We said that we're going to have exemptions for seniors. We're going to have exemptions for 100% disabled veterans. Those are things that we have committed to. The only thing we have not done yet as a council is come and vote on that.
That was for going to Cobb County.
Sir, this is for public safety, regardless of where it comes from. We had already created a special service district because those were funds we were still going to pay the county. It's the same exact money, it's just now we're looking at allocating that and putting that in a different place. And we did not go into details with that before because we were actively in negotiations with the county. So, as transparent as can be, that's a negotiation that's ongoing. When we were able to make that transparent even before the negotiation had completed, we actually put that, our finance director had put that amount in the budget. So it's been there through the review. So I'm happy that we were able to be transparent about that and put that exactly out there. We know exactly who's going to pay for that, and we know where that money is going to be allocated to, and we know how that money is going to be spent. Yes, ma'am.
Hey there, this is Jolie Elder. I'm in District 4, Cassandra Brown's district. Your presentation tonight, there's a lot about money. There's no data. You don't have a spreadsheet in your presentation. There's no data about how much Cobb County police costs in general. There's no data about how many citizens are served by that. There's no data about how the 80,000 citizens of Mableton, what portion we are. There's no data about how many police responses are within the whole county versus within the city of Mableton. So we don't have a sense of how either you or Chairwoman Cupid are coming to the numbers that we're being presented with. You said we pay 8.5 mils in property tax, and you're proposing a 4.5 mil increase, which is quite significant for many of our residents. You said that we would get better police service, for this, better public safety for this, but you didn't present any data on what is our current state of public safety. What is the data? How does our public safety compare with the unincorporated parts of the county versus the parts of the county like Smyrna or Marietta that have their own police services? And I know you don't have all those numbers in front of you, but if you could please push that data out to us so we can better evaluate. And then the last thing I'm going to ask is I know you got a little upset when somebody asked about the study that was done before we
The
voted.
feasibility study.
The feasibility
Yes, ma'am.
study. Please tell me that you and all the members of the council have read it and understand it, and whether you like it or not, have a sense of what people expected from that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Julie. And absolutely do. Obviously, yes, we have read it. And again, I think it's important to note that myself and every person that's elected sitting on the city council was not a part of the movement, the feasibility study, nor did we approve it or deny it, right? Just like everyone else here. What we're doing now is where my focus was going forward, because whatever that feasibility study said or didn't say, quite frankly, is water under the bridge at this point in time. We have to move forward. We have to pick up the pieces. We have to strategize about where we are and do what we feel is most comfortable moving forward. To your other question about some of the data around this, this meeting wasn't specifically about how we're going to go forward. This was the initial meeting to talk about where we are right now, and then get the survey, and then we'll come back with that. However, I will say this: April 14th of 2025, we had a joint meeting at I think Sewell Library, Switzer Library, and the county did a fantastic job of outlining the numbers, what they were. That was a public meeting. Those information has been shared since then, and I don't know if that's on our website, but it's been shared a few times. So it was very clear about how the county reached their number around, I think it was $18.7 million, and specifically laid out the calls for service, the different types of calls that the county has, and even a 5-year history on the number of citations, the number of arrests. All that information is publicly available and has been shared with the public in the past. But we will make sure we get more of the information, and if, again, that's public record, so we'll make sure that's on our website as well, and I'm sure that the county has provided that information in the past as well. So thank you. Sir.
My name is Kirk Charles. Mableton resident since '89. I'm glad I deferred my time to the lady here, and I would also encourage you crawl, walk, run. If I had had a bingo card and was taking notes, I think I would have heard the word control about 50 times. The implication is that we were in chaos prior to Mableton becoming a city. And I don't think that's a fair characterization of how the county has handled things in the past or how it's happening now. I would encourage you, crawl, walk, run. Control, I understand, that's a personal thing for a politician, but it's not necessary to seize it fiercely to run a city.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And I want to make sure that folks know that we all are in this boat together. And I've mentioned it at several council meetings, that nothing disturbs me more, I think, than trying to build this thing like it's us versus them. Us, like we are residents. I've lived here since 1998, right? I lived off of Floyd Road, I lived off of Gore Road, I've lived off of Nickajack, I live off of Oakdale, and I now live off of Buckner Road. So I am just as much a citizen of this city as anybody else, as much as our council. So we're never going to create this dynamic to where, like, we are somehow separate and distinct from those that are sitting in this seat.
I would encourage you never say never.
Never say never. Sure. But the crawl, walk, run, we've been crawling, we've been walking. We're going to run at some point in time, right? And I think by enlisting people who have skill sets, who have talent, who have stood up other police departments, I think is very much so. When we talk about control, please note, that is not about me. That is not about this council. I've served with some of the most selfless people that I've ever met, right? But I think it is important to talk about the resilientness that we need to have, the ability to determine what our future is. And again, that is in partnership with the county. There's no city that does not partner with the county in some shape, form, or fashion. We'll continue to partner with them. Again, we have 14 out of the 15 IGAs were already put in place. We continue to partner. I think our city manager just partnered with the county on some things earlier this week. It will continue to happen. We'll continue to partner, we'll continue to grow, we'll continue to learn from each other as we go forward. Ms. Marshall.
Hi, everyone. My name is Joshua Marshall. I'm in District 3. I'm an attorney, so my math isn't the best, but 13.5 and 9.5 is 23 million, so we're already in the hole. If you're going to tell me that 21 million is what the Special Service District is allocating for services, for public safety services, we're already behind right now. Maybe the chairwoman can come up and tell us how much it cost us between the time of you guys trying to negotiate that one sentence, how much it costs the citizens to pay for 100 police officers being deputized. No one has talked about that. So I want to understand, one of the things that you attempted to stress, and I think that what we need to focus on is smart, conscientious growth at all times. However you want to say it, crawl, run, walk, we're not there yet. We do have a provision, Mr. Philpott asked about it and Mr. Taints kind of skipped over it. There is a provision in the IGA that allows for us to provide notice to Cobb County within 6 months, and we can continue on with our police services that Cobb County has given us. That's accurate. So we don't have to stand up the police department right now.
Yeah, thank you for that.
So another thing I want to say, because you made it a specific thing in your presentation. The Special Service District has a line in it, but I really want people to think about this. What the text says. It says that the City Council may, from time to time and without limitation, transfer the public safety SSD fund monies to other funds related to maintenance, provision, and enhanced delivery of public safety services within the public safety SSD. If we have a fund for public safety services, why would we ever need to transfer them out?
Do you want to read that line again, ma'am, for me, please?
It says this is in the ordinance that you guys voted on. It says the city council may from time to time and without limitation transfer the public safety SSD fund monies to other funds related to the maintenance, provision, and enhanced delivery of public safety services within the public safety SSD.
Yes, ma'am.
Why would you ever need to transfer funds out for a service that's already being provided?
I can answer that question very easily because I explained that public safety and the public safety division will contain multiple different agencies. It will contain code enforcement, a city marshal's office, police services, community engagement. So within the Special Service District, there's multiple line items.
So you can name it whatever you want to, whenever you want to.
It stays within public safety.
It needs to stay, the money should never be transferred out.
And it's not, ma'am. It stays within public. It says stays within public safety.
It says without limitation, we can transfer funds out.
Within public safety. Take the last clause, it says
Take out
within
the
public
transfer.
safety.
Take out the transfer and keep it, if it's for public safety, it's for public safety. That's it. You don't ever need to transfer money for something.
You will, ma'am. I can transfer money from code enforcement to community engagement. I can transfer money from the police department over to the marshal's office. That's still within the public safety division.
Transparency is not a word, a buzzword.
Thank you, ma'am.
Transparency is transparency. It means honesty, it means integrity. You need to learn what it actually means before you keep saying it over and over
And
and
we
over.
put that provision in there so that when we do transfer from one to the other, we're transparent and saying we can transfer from one to the other. So thank you for pointing it out, because that actually highlights the transparency that we're having. To say if we even move from one agency to the other, we're allowing that. Ma'am.
Good evening, Denny Wilson, District 2. I have two questions, and I'll try to be very brief.
Sure.
My first question is, you know, last year, we were at this same place with Mableton and the county. This year, we're back here again. Why is it that you guys wait until the last minute before you go into these negotiations with the county?
It's a good question, ma'am. I'll say we did not wait. We've been meeting for roughly 9 months now. We did not wait. It's been on the calendar where myself, the chairwoman, multiple other people, the county manager, city manager, other council members, it's been an ongoing process in meeting. So we did not wait. We've been meeting the whole time.
Okay, well, that's not what I was told, but anyway, and then my second question is, the SPOS list that you guys outlined, where you have, I think, 35 million for a building. Have you guys thought about maybe redoing your SPOS list before it's approved? And you can use that for public safety, and it will ease some of the tax burden off the citizens. Have you guys ever thought about redoing that SPOS list?
Sure. So we have considered what the current SPOS looks like. But again, SPOS dollars used for capital funds is different than operating funds. We're not going to start playing funny with how we run our financial books. SPOS dollars being for capital improvements.
I understand.
Okay, so the answer to that is no, we're really not going to do that, because the public safety dollars are there for operational costs, any public safety. But we're not going to start messing around with our money dedicated to capital projects for SPOS.
So is the $35 million building a building for City Hall?
Sure, so the 35 million is not for a building. If you look at the actual SPOS, it says municipal and civic buildings with an S, right? So it is for whatever those needs are, whether it's operational, whether it's admin, whatever that may be.
Okay, well,
Including public safety.
okay, so let's play the devil's advocate, not that he needs one. What if the SPOS doesn't pass? Then what is Mableton going to do?
Sure, which is again another reason why we have a special service district.
Okay.
Special service district inoculates us from any of those other things that may happen. When I talked about us making sure that we are comfortable and confident in where we are with our funds that we're going to raise and where they're going to go, you do that through a special service district. That's not going to fluctuate.
All right,
So,
thank
thank
you.
Is that it? All right. We're going to take one more. Sir, you literally see people are starting to leave. So.
Yes. Yeah, well, my question, I guess, I know, I hear a lot of transparency going out, and, you know, that's something that goes through my mind is, being transparent as far as, you know, just the tax burden. I really personally, I just feel like, a lot of this is we're gonna have to take on the burden of the taxes for these services, because you know, it costs a lot to run the city and have it to be great. But I guess my question, I'm looking around and I know there are a lot of building projects going up, a lot of apartments, condos in our permitting process and infrastructure. Is all of that taken into consideration? Are we doing traffic studies, things like that, taken into consideration because it looks like we're going to be expanding that, going to take on that cost?
Yes, sir. I don't think any of these things operate in a vacuum, right? They're all interrelated and to some extent. So whether it's public safety or housing or economic development, they're all interrelated. But to answer your question, yes, we have looked at that. Matter of fact, we received a $264,000 grant. It's called Safe Streets for All, so we can take a look at our roadways, our infrastructure to ensure that as we grow, as that smart growth that we're having, that we're taking those things into account as well. We've also just got an LCI grant for, how much was that? $164,000. And that itself is going to look at how we grow, how we develop. We just finished our comprehensive plan just recently that's been submitted to the Atlanta Regional Commission and the Department of Community Affairs at the state of Georgia for them to have a look and make sure that we are planning, we're having smart growth, planned growth for the city that's going to meet the needs for everybody. So I just wanted to throw a couple of those out there. We are looking at those elements. We are making sure that as we grow, we're looking for those other things. Last thing I'll say about that is there's a lot of growth that you see. Growth doesn't happen overnight, right? People continue to move in, we continue to plan, we continue to make sure as the city grows, we're putting these pieces in place. Again, when traffic gets worse, we sit in the same traffic that you guys sit in. There's no special lane for the mayor to get through traffic, right? The issues that we have, these are shared issues that we have. These are the same issues that every single one of these council members and their families deal with as well. So, again, I understand the issues that we have, and I think from a transparency sake, because that word has been used a lot tonight, continue to come to our council meetings, continue to reach out to your council people. We're here to listen. We're here to understand your concerns, your wants, your needs, your issues. We have put this forth. We made no hiding about the fact that there's a special service district that we're creating. And we'll continue to talk about that. We'll continue to make sure you know exactly what that means. We'll make sure those exemptions that we say we're going to be in place for our seniors and for our veterans are put in place and hold us to accountability. No one's shying away from this. We're not shying away from this. We're not hiding about what this is. We're public officials. We're elected officials that are here to represent the wants and needs of this city and the individuals. So we're going to continue to work through it. My hope is that we work through it as a united community, as a city, as people that want to see the best, regardless of how we got here, that want to see the best for us moving forward. Continue to reach out to us. Please continue to go onto the website, look for information, contact us, reach out to us. Use the QR code, go to the website, and fill out the form. You want to make sure your voice is heard, fill out the form. Last thing I will say is, I think we cut it off right. Sir, if you had a question?
One more question.
Please, go ahead.
In the coming year, what do you feel are the milestones you have to hit before we're ready to take over and start our own police department?
So I think the biggest thing is we have to build trust. We have to build trust in the fact that you guys are sitting out here, believe this is something that we can actually do. The city manager spoke earlier about the consultants that we have in place and the ability for us to actually do this, these studies and connecting with people that know how to stand a police department, that know how to run a police department. Don't think for a minute, we have a lot of people, we have police officers that live in this city who would love nothing more than to serve and protect in the city in which they live in. So,
I'm a retired police officer myself. I'm looking more for, we have a year.
Yes, sir.
3 months, we have to hire a police chief. Or in 4 months, we have to have a building or a place to
Yes.
house them. 6 months, we have to have a training, a policy manual. Like, what are those milestones and how quickly?
So those things will be part of the meeting as we go forward. This is not the last meeting we're going to have. This is the very first one, right? Looking for a public safety director, working with our city manager and team to make sure we start to recruit and all the building. Again, I told you there's already some progress there. This will be an evolution. This will be a progress as we go forward. Nobody's standing here today saying we have all the answers. It's not what we're doing, right? But we will continue to have more meetings. We'll continue to work through what we need to do for the future. So thank you. I appreciate you, sir. All right. The survey QR code, please fill that out.
That doesn't work.
That's so good. This one does.
At the bottom of the page, it says at the bottom.
Here's the one here.
Word. It doesn't go straight to the survey.
This one does not work. Go there. Did you check that? Thank you all. I appreciate y'all.
Hey everyone, I would just like to remind you that we do have multiple options in front of us right now. There are three options. We can either keep the city the way that, by the way, I'm in District 5, my name is Jeff Russo. We keep the city as it is, we can de-annex, or we can, or we can